Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Zoom into Wine. It's time for the show and your host, Ian Blackburn.
Hey everybody, my name is Ian Blackburn. I am the host of Wine LA, and this is Zoom into Wine, and we are excited to have you on board with us. We're going to be talking about Di Martino Winery tonight, and this is a really exciting wine brand that I recently have become exposed to. I'm not sure if any of you have traveled Chile at all, but there's a lot of Chile to see, much like saying you've been to California. You know, Chile is a gigantic coastline, and they're making a lot of wine for the world. And we have a special guest on the Zoom tonight. He's a master sommelier. His name is Josh Orr, and he accompanies our Di Martino winemaker. Now we pre-taped this Zoom because they're 3 hours later than we are down in Chile where he's at. And I will say that we went pretty geeky and we talked a lot. I'm going to interrupt the Zoom along the way and check in on you guys and answer questions and make sure you guys are drinking a little bit. But I think you will really enjoy the subject matter. The winemaker got super excited, went outside with his phone and took us into the vineyards, into the winery. And so it's quite a vineyard visit. And I just want to prepare you for that. I'm starting today with a wine that the winemaker is super excited about. And this is his wine from Itata. Itata is a little further south, and this is a really exciting winemaking zone. And I'm going to remove my screen protector in the back so you can see the wine bottle if you're not joining us with a bottle. There we go. Okay. Sometimes I do that and I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot that was back there. But we're going to be tasting this this wine right here. It is from Di Martino Winery, and it is their Cinsault 2018.
Ian, I think your video is turned off.
Okay.
Oh yeah. There you are.
My first time all over again. Sorry about that.
Thank you.
All right. So Di Martino Winery, we've got the Cinsault in my hand. And this is a really special bottle of wine made from Itata, and we'll get about, I don't want to be redundant, we're talking about it quite a bit here with the winemaker. But I'd like to toast you guys and just give you a second on Cinsault. Cheers, everybody. Those of you that don't have the wine, you can see this wine is pretty light in body and color. Beautiful cranberry kind of color. It's got a lightness to it, a thin skin. That's because of the winemaking process. You can make it darker, you can make it more bold. The winemaker really wants to capture the finesse of this grape variety. I did recommend chilling this down as I do all my wines. I always like my red wines cold, cool, somewhere in there. This one definitely improves with being cooler. Cinsault is not the grape that everyone's tasted 20 different versions of usually. So, you know, I'd love to get your impression on the Cinsault, but I love the nose on this wine. It has just this almost floral, again, that cranberry notes, a little bit of that plum skin, light elegance. You know, you get that kind of, that pretty perfume coming off of a red wine, and then some nice herb kind of characteristics. And watch how it changes. It will evolve quite a bit. And it's just a phenomenal warm weather, cool wine. So it's pretty appropriate for our day today. And I think you're really going to be impressed. So without any further ado, let's get into our video and take a look at the team that's going to be presenting with me tonight. And I think you'll really enjoy them. So here we go. And want to, you know, as we're going to incorporate this into our Zoom next week, we wanted to have the winemaker on board, and we have the
great pleasure of having not only the winemaker, but also a master sommelier, Josh Orr, who works for the importer of Sebastian's wine. But gentlemen, I want to thank you and welcome you to Zoom Into Wine, where we
Everybody here
talk
okay?
about wine and bring great wine knowledge to the table. And we really appreciate your support.
We're happy to be here. We appreciate you having us. And anytime I get to hang out with Sebastian's a good time. So thank you for giving me that opportunity.
Cool.
And thanks, Ian. Thanks for having us. So it's a real pleasure to be able to share what we do and also to show these two wines that represent very much what we do in the Martino as well. So I think it's exciting.
Great. Talk about your background just a little bit, if you wouldn't mind. What has been your path?
Okay, my path. So look, my history is as follows. I grew up in a small town where the winery is. The town is called Isla de Maipo. Isla de Maipo means Maipo Island. This used to be like the town used to be in the middle of two branches of the Maipo River. So one of the branches dried, and that's where the main vineyard is now. So this area is all about stones, all riverbed. So I grew up here in the winery every single day. Wine was there in my entire day, morning, lunch, wine conversations, dinner, the good things or the bad things, the good difficulties, the positives, the good lunches, the bad lunches, all of it. It is not about beauty, the entire thing. So it's more about the journey. So grew up here. But then with time, I moved up to the city nearby Santiago to make my studies. I studied something totally different. I didn't study winemaking as such. So we have a very good technical team looking after that. But I decided in the beginning to do something different because I was at one point, when you grow up with something, you're immersed in a very strong way, so you need to run from it. And that what happened to me initially. So I started something more related to business, and I worked in business for several years. For some reason, I always knew I was going to come back to the winery because I love everything related to it. So spending the harvest time here, coming every single weekend to the winery, very much involved. I was not working. So since an early age, we were always very involved with my brother. So it's two of us in the family working now for the fourth generation. It's my brother and I. And so that was it. Then I decided to go to Spain for 3 years to work as well. That was working in wine there because we used to have an office there actually for wine and for distributing our wine. So being there 3 years was very good for me to open up my, wine mind, because I was able to visit lots of the vineyards in Spain, from Gredos to Priorat to Andalusia with the sherries, which we love. Lots of trips to Bordeaux, which I study later on. So I study later on in Bordeaux as well. Lots of trips to Burgundy, Barolo, and different areas. So I think for me, while working, and has been very important, these trips and meeting exciting people and some people from our team as well to get inspiration to what we do now. So it's been a journey that is also based on the palate, trying many other wines, not only ours. I think that's when you end up drinking only your wines, it's a bit sad. It's like I think intellectually you're dead. So it's been very important to that journey, that we keep doing these trips every single year, to keep doing what we're doing and to decide what was the house style. I think with the team at the time, like 15 years ago almost, we were a bit lost with the house style. We were doing wines that were like 14.5 alcohol, over extracted, a bit too much. You drink a glass and you're done. Move on to something else. And in our cellars, there was a point that were no about wine. So at the end, this trip, this journey helped us out to establish what's the Martino now, along with the team. So it's basically, we stand for wines that are all about balance and purity and sense of place. So it's a, hang on.
Still hear you fine.
Yeah, so it's basically what we look for wines here. It's that purity, sense of place, and balance. And we have a technical team alongside myself and my brother Marco, that it's been the same journey.
Mm-hmm.
And also has very inspiring also the wines made by my grandfather. You know, we're here. My origins, my family comes from Abruzzo, from Italy. So we traveled after the war. You know, it was only poverty in the area. We were growing vines there, and then the first Martino settled here in 1934. Then the second, after the Second War arrives, and then the family is established here. We still have family in Italy. We're Italian citizens as well, have Italian nationality too. But we try to make wines that are acid. You have like wines that are fresh, poised with leaf. That's very important for us. Mm-hmm. And my grandparents' wines were like that. You know, they were 12.5 alcohol, made with less technology, put it that way, like large old body. And the wines were very charming. You know, when you look back, the wines were very charming, and the wines probably that were more made in the early 2000s or late 2000s or late 90s are wines that are much more monolithical, and right now in my view, they're not aging as well as the previous one. So it's been a journey. Mm-hmm. We're in a happy place right now because we know where we're going. Our main holding is here in Maipo, where in Maipo it's a place that we have a mild Mediterranean climate. We're not far from the sea. And this place, as I mentioned earlier, is called Isla de Maipo. So we have breezes coming in. We have fog coming in a bit like in San Francisco during the warmer months. So it's not torrid in terms of temperature. So allow us to ripen while preserving acid. So here we specialize in Bordeaux varietals, mainly Cabernet and Carmenère, and which we can, produce wines that I think are highlighted by more its charm. If you ask me, are more claret style, we like more claret style, in the context of our country. The farming is in some vineyards organic, certified, in some is not, but it's more sustainable than our organic certified vineyard. But it's the essence of the Martino is here in Maipo. That's very important. So Maipo is our powerhouse. This is where we live. This is where I'm standing right now, and this is where everything happens. But with time, we also start to explore different territories. Something that is very exciting that also is we're gonna be able to share a bit in the second wine is it's Itata. Itata is down south. That's the oldest vine growing region in the New World, actually. So the first vines were planted there in 1551. So there we find basically different growing conditions. So
1551?
1551, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so bloody old, man. Josh has been there. He can tell you about some of the very old vines that we have found there and that we own. So there
they're like small trolls. They're humongous.
Ah, cool.
Yeah, it's totally different. So there you need to think high rainfall. So it rains 1,000 millimeters, so a bit more than Oregon even. Mm-hmm. Then you have a coastal climate, granite soil, very short goblet grown, so no wires, nothing. Granite soils, horseplow vineyards, grown in hills, and we made basically Senso, that is a very charming and drinkable wine. It's what I call a 14-minute bottle of wine between two decent gentlemen, or a Monday lunch wine.
And you mentioned your brother is involved.
Just a reminder, you should be drinking very quickly. It's 14 minutes are almost up.
Is the entire family involved, or predominantly?
Yeah, that now still are involved more in the more behind, still the third generation. Yeah, still, yeah. But the everyday is my brother and I. Yeah.
And you guys are you guys working on the next generation already?
Well, yes, we actually are. My brother's got two beautiful daughters, and I have one daughter. And actually, I have 2 weeks ago, I realized that the next one is coming as well. So
Wow.
yeah, so it's and looks like that it's another girl too. So I think we're girls here.
Okay.
Congratulations, man.
I don't know how to make boys. I don't know why. We make girls.
All right. Well, cool.
So
I know the brand has been around for a long time. When was the first vintage of Di Martino?
in 1935, but initially the wines were sold locally. So
Okay.
let's say the first bottles that you find probably in the States would be early 90s. Yeah. So
Amazing how many times the references to kind of the mass exodus from southern Italy in there right around World War One. I hear a lot of stories now, stories that I didn't hear when I was growing up in college or high school or elementary school, but about how when the Italian military was looking to stock, the men for the military, they came south looking for soldiers and maybe even more so than in the north, right? Is that a story that you have heard?
yeah, it's in my case there was in my family they were in this small little town in Abruzzo, so it's in the Apennines, so not far from Rome. But from the siblings, my grandfather was the youngest one, so he was, let's say, he was 16 for the Second War, so he was working basically in communication in the telegraph station in the middle of Rome. That's where he was based. Whereas his oldest brother was fighting, in the Balkans and got, actually he got there and soon after, was captured. So he was captured for some time. And yeah, so the story is a bit sad, like in the sense that, and then one went to Venezuela and the other one went to Chile, and that's how it happened for us. But even when we get to meet with them or our cousins from there, wine is really important. I think it runs through the entire I think culture. Like wine it's more about food here than a drink. We understand it more as a food than a drink. And what you said, yeah, it's true. It's very similar to what happened in our case. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah.
Well, these type of things have shaped the world that we live in today, and you guys have made a big statement about organic farming and kind of a more natural path. How about your neighbors? Do you have a lot of neighbors in the Mayapo right around you, and who are they?
Yeah, one is Santa Emma. That is, I think it's Santa Emma. It's another family winery. One is Terra Mater. The other one is Tarapacá. So they've got several, and perhaps we're the only ones that will embrace more the organic approach. But all of them, have great wines in different styles. I think, some of our neighbors would be perhaps making wines that are a bit more more fruit forward, let's say, and our style perhaps is a bit more towards nuance. But all of them are great wines in different styles. But this is a small town, so everyone knows each other, man. It's like you go to the center of the town, it's a really small town. It's two streets. One goes in that direction, and then one goes like this. It's like 15,000 people if you consider the surroundings, and then probably like 6,000 dogs and 4,000.
Oh, that sounds pretty cool. Josh, you've been down there, I take it?
Yeah, we got to go and visit Sebastian last year, actually, at the beginning of last year. And that's where I got to see not only the property in Isla de Maipo, but as well, they were kind enough to kind of do a tour of Chile. And so we got to go down to Atata, we ended up in the Maule. We saw several of their different vineyard sites. We didn't make it to all of them, that would have been quite the Mad Max Road Warrior trip. But we made it to a good portion of them, and so it was really cool to get that first person experience. Because when he says that the Isla de Maipo is rocky, he's not kidding. There's a vineyard that they make a single vineyard Cabernet from called La Concha that's right in that area. And you walk through it, and it's all these huge rocks, not quite as big as like the Galets you see in like Châteauneuf-du-Pape, but it's really rocky to where it's not even ground. You don't pay attention, you're going to trip and fall. And I came to find out that before they'd planted it with vines, it was an old soccer field for the locals. And I was like, what?
That's a tough game of soccer.
Seriously. Like, no wonder the Chileans are rugged when it comes to soccer. I don't even know how you'd kick the ball. So that's something that I won't soon forget, because they'd taken the time when we went down there to actually dig holes in the vineyard to show us the breakdown of the soil. And so you could see just how deep the layers of rocks from the river runoff had gone, and it was really impressive.
I'm gonna show you now. But sorry to cut you out there, Josh. I'm walking, and because I have like 10% battery, and I want to show you the soils that I'm walking now.
Okay.
And some of them we can connect in the laptop because to show you before. Because carry on. Sorry to cut you there,
No, it's
Josh.
okay. This is live on the scenes. What time is it in Chile right now, Sebastian?
It's 12. It's like 12:15, something there, around there.
Very good. Yeah, cool. So yeah, we're recording this because we go live at 7:00, and it would be quite late down there. And so we wanted.
It's gonna be live here soon, like super soon. Like you see, it's a beautiful day here.
Yeah.
You see that? Beautiful day, beautiful vineyard. You see all the.
Wow.
And I'm gonna show you now. We're gonna show you the soils. So we're going now to a pit here that we have.
Oh my goodness.
So basically, this is what you see here. This is the soils here. Gravel. So it's an old riverbed, meaning
Look
that
how round those are. Those stones are round.
around, because these are stones that were in the Andes before.
I was going to say it's all runoff from the Andes.
Yeah, so runoff from the Andes. So it's been runoff. The Andes are here from like 80 kilometers, and the sea it's about 50. So on their way after the last glaciation, sun comes out. These stones are deposited here in this area. So that's why you find like all of them polished and different colors as well. You find like some are volcanic, some are not, different sizes. You see, you have like huge rocks like this one,
Yeah.
or like this one together with some others, and some sand as well. So the soils are really poor here in organic material. And you have to think a bit like Medoc here. It's like a very poor organic material, like good drainage, and yeah, so meaning that the vines, low yields and ideal climate, you can make what points that are like the styles that we like here. So it's very important, the soils in Isla de Maipo. It's all about the soils in my view. Soils and the climate too. That's very, very important. Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Well, and Sebastian, I believe I'm correct in saying this, but you guys are the largest certified organic vineyard holders, correct, in your area?
In the area, yes, but not in Chile. No, because in Chile, that's
not in all of Chile, but in the area.
In Chile, there's huge operations in where there's a drop in the wine sea here, but it's yeah. So we
yes. No, that's what I was more pointing out, the certified organic aspect as opposed to size.
Yeah, in the area, yes. In the area, yes. So I'm gonna try to show you a bit what we also take you to more the winery right now. If for some reason these things turn off, I'm gonna come back to my laptop, but I wanna rush now because the battery is like going down. Okay.
No worries. What's the temp like there, Sebastian, right now? I don't know if you can hear me.
New bottles coming in.
But it's funny to see him and all these guys in jackets and whatnot. And I'm sitting here, and I know Ian, you're in the same boat, right? Where it's going to be like 95 today.
Exactly. Yeah, they're definitely wearing layers. It's got to be a little cooler. We're heading into their they're in winter now, right?
Yeah, pretty much. They would have harvested. Sebastian, you did harvest. It would have been in like February or March.
January, March. We start late February, depending the year, and then we finish by mid-April generally, depending the variety.
I was about to say your harvest is a long period because you're harvesting over so many different regions and so many different sites. So it's a long haul for you. I remember talking to you about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we are. We keep our food reserve botis. So this is very important to explain a bit the style of what we do here in the Martino. So we basically have botis here, the 5,000 liter botis, which we love for our single vineyards, which are very neutral, and that's why we love them. So 5,000 liters, very neutral, we love them. And in the back you see barriques. All the barriques that you see in the back, we use them, and they're in average 13 or 14 years old now. So the impact is very little, they're very neutral. So that's very important in the style of the Martino. That's why we favor this kind of vessel, both. Our style is more prone to purity, and we believe in that. In our style, the botis and the neutral barrel work best. We understand that some other people love barriques. We love them, but not so much the new. But we understand that great wines with new barriques as well. So it's more of a stylistical decision that we did for our wines here in the Martino. So that's very important to explain the style. So remember, the Martino, it's all about purity, sense of place and balance. In winemaking, we try to avoid corrections in the winery. So basically, wine is fermenting all of our wines. We don't add tartaric, we don't correct the wines. Then the aging is in neutral barrels or botis or tinajas, which are amphoras that we're going to run now to see if we can able to see them.
Wow.
Well, I don't know if Sebastian mentioned it, but those are Stockinger casks.
Corona cleaning.
Casks?
I'll come back to it. Let's let him talk.
Sure, go ahead, Sebastian.
That's the Corona cleaning, guys.
The Corona cleaning?
Right.
All right.
This Corona thing has been a hassle here.
Yeah.
We haven't had any issues here in the winery, but still it's around here.
Yeah, we're still in the thick of it here.
Indeed. Yeah. Sebastian, I was saying that the casks that you were talking about, the neutral casks, are Stockinger casks, which are a very sought after cask maker. And you were the first, if I remember correctly, to get them down in South America. You guys got lucky enough to be able to get some.
Yeah, so it's a very nice story, because coming back to the way we were talking about the wine style and the different transitions that we've done. Once we decided that we want to come back to the style of our moderation, let's say, we went and tasted many different botis in Europe, and we decided that Stockinger was the one that suited better our style or what we're aiming for. But this was 2008, early 2008 or late 2007, and pre-financial crisis.
Mm-hmm.
So we called Mr. Stockinger and said, look, we ordered some. He said, look, I have so many orders that probably in 4 or 5 more years, we have no Stockinger in America, actually. And we said, okay, we understand, but keep us in the queue there. A bit like Burgundy allocation system.
Sure.
And then financial crisis arrives, and then he called us saying, guys, do you still want those? Yes, please. Send them in. Yeah, so that's a
free time. Get what you want when you get what you want. You can.
Yeah. So they're very neutral, and the guy dries the wood in the Alps for 7 years, so they're very. They're very, and it works really very good for our style. But again, it's a container, so I think it's more important what goes in than than anything else. So this is our tinaja room. You see, amphora. So.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, very cool.
Yeah. So here we do two wines. One is called the Viejas Tinajas Muscat and the Viejas Tinajas Senso. Right here, right now, we have the Senso 20 there and few amphoras of the Muscat 20 resting there. And so here we make two wines in amphora, both of them from Itata. And we don't do them in these old amphoras because it's trendy. We do them because of the tradition of the first wines in the country, where to make them in amphora. So actually, we rescued with the team several amphoras several years ago, and then that's how this project started back in 2011. So the idea is a tribute to the first wines of the country. Both of them coming from Itata, from our vineyard. So that's more or less the story. So very important in Itata, these vessels. So if you can have perhaps George can point you in the right direction, but we do two wines, the Viejas Tinajas. Viejas Tinajas means old amphoras. The tinaja is basically, we call these tinajas. And you see the size, they're quite sizable, so I'm standing one next to one.
Mm-hmm.
But, we go from very small ones here in the back.
Very cool. Look like they've been harvested from the ground. Is that what you do? Is you pick the grapes, put them in the ground, or are they?
We will the stem and put only the berries. Let's say we will fill it with the berries still here.
Okay.
We will cover this with a kind of a cling film. Then the grapes start fermenting and macerating. This is in the case of the red. Okay. We don't do any pisage, anything. We just leave it like that. It starts kind of a maceración carbonique, finish with alcoholic. We don't touch it. And then let's say the wine stays, we take the skins, we press, put the wine here, and we close it, the amphora like this. So we will put some adobe, which is like straw and.
Oh, that's what that is. Okay.
Yeah, and close it. We will leave the pipette open to top up. You see, just only to top up and to sample the wine. You see?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's so.
When we were there and Sebastian showed that to us, when he pulled the pipette, you could smell just the aromatics coming out of there. It was super impressive. And one thing Sebastian didn't talk about with the amphora, you were saying they look like they came out of the ground. Most of those, some of them, they don't know how old they are, but essentially the style that went into making those clay pots is a lost art, and they haven't been able to find the right mix of clay as well as the right temperatures and whatnot to recreate them properly. And so it's a finite resource. And but for whatever reason, how they use it, it works great. And so that's why there's different sizes, different shapes. And that adobe, if I remember correctly, Sebastian, you bring that up from Itata. It's the same clay that's in the area, correct?
Yeah, we've tried different types of clay for sealing, and we realized that the best that it works are, we have a terrible earthquake back in 2010. So all our old houses here in Chile are made by adobe, this clay and straw thing. As you see, you can take it here like this, all of this. And so those houses are on the floor now that are built with this adobe. That kind of adobe has worked best to seal the tinajas. It doesn't break. You see, it's very. You don't see cracks. You see, you don't see cracks. Only,
Fascinating. Yeah. Fascinating.
Yeah.
Well, I'm excited to come back around and try those with our group in the future. I actually have a bottle of the Muscat in the office here to taste at a later time. So
good. Hold your hands because I know in the States I think there are 240 bottles of that. So
all right. Yeah, Chris had told me that's something special. So I wanted to meet you first and get to know the story, and then we'll dive into that bottle. But I thank you for showing us your beautiful winery and getting to know you a little bit there.
I worry if he's, oh no, good, he's back. I was going to say, I hope his phone didn't die.
Okay, yeah. So I thought I was creating an exit. Looks like you came back. But the passion that you have for your place and the process is obvious, and that's really cool, and that's a great part of the story. And when I talk to the guys here with Broadbent, and I can see it in Josh's eyes too when he's talking about his recent visit, everyone's real excited about what you're doing. And there he left us now. So
he's got a good connection. He's back quick, but
okay.
yeah, continue. Sorry, I interrupted.
Sure, no problem.
All right, I'm going to pause for a second, as we just went on a pretty good winery tour there. And does everybody hear me okay? I've on the Zoom, I'm not sure how, if Chris is actually engaged with us or not. He was kind of chaperoning our Zoom tonight, Chris Levin. And he, you can see his square down there. Hopefully he'll be able to show his face eventually. I know his house, he's only got air conditioning in his bedroom, so his house was quite hot today. But Chris puts in long days every day. He's a really hardworking guy in the wine industry. If you don't know Chris, he is a long-term friend of mine. He's gone to work for Broadbent, who's the importer of these wines, and he makes a lot of this happen for me. We're going to have some amazing guests, including Mr. Broadbent, coming on to a Zoom with us very, very soon. They also are the importers of Chateau Moussard, and so we're working with the Broadbent folks to bring you Chateau Moussard live from Lebanon very, very soon. And so some really cool things are happening. They represent some really cool artisan wines. They all tend to be very passionate small producers, family owned and operated, with really nice high ethos, just like this gentleman who is just an absolute gem. And I just wanted to get your feedback on the Cinsault. I hope you like it as much as I do. Maybe you've been watching it and you can smell how it's changed, how it's opened, and how much spicier and more aromatic it's become. I love to cook, and yesterday I made ossobuco, and I used all these herbs and spices and bay spice. You don't use a lot of it, but you create this little sash of a cheesecloth full of different herbs and spices, and you take some bay leaf, and I smell bay leaf right off the top of the nose of this wine. Anybody else pick up anything else there? And Janice, I'll talk about those clay pots in a little bit. I can't hear anybody, so if anybody wants to chime in. Lauren, help me out there. What do you smell, buddy? I got you. Can everybody hear me? I can't hear Lauren.
We can hear you.
Okay, good.
My mic was muted.
No problem. It happens. It's one of those days. Lauren, what do you think, buddy?
Oh my, this is just getting better and better and better. And after that tour of the winery and those clay pots and everything, I mean, what a passion. Fantastic.
Yeah, super.
How about everybody else?
Sure. Tony, what do you guys think? And I'm sorry, is it Doris?
Yeah, Doris.
Hey, Doris.
Hey.
You were an A student all your life, weren't you?
I'm sorry?
You were an A student all of your life.
Almost, yeah.
Hey, such good.
She's downplaying it. She was.
Your attention to detail, you're on it. I watch it. You're like, God, that girl's so engaged. I love it. What do you guys think?
No, it was really good. Like you were saying, as it kind of opens up and like warms up just a little bit more, there's so many more aromatics, and it's really, really good. We're enjoying it.
Yeah, this is really good. just very smooth and very flavorful, and yeah, excellent.
So they make different levels of wine at this winery. They, the market for, the average bottle of wine sold in America is around $9. Okay. And so when people make wine all over the world, they make it so that people can import it and sell it for $9. And a lot of those wines are not that interesting. So I think a lot of people, haven't really tried too many great wines from Chile. I mean, when is it going to be okay? You go to the store and you think, how much are we going to spend on a bottle of wine? $50 and make it from Chile. That doesn't happen very often. And so this is a wine. It's a little less than that. It's about $40. But this is like really sensational wine. And what I love about it isn't that it, some people think, power needs to equate with price. It's the subtlety that's in this wine. It's the less is more. It's the elegance. It's the finesse. It's the soft, daft touch that they have figured out how to, make this wine even more exciting by less extraction, softer, gentler élevage at the winery. This wine was actually made in those big foudre, that big wood container. Those are magic. Okay, and the fact that they got like the best producer of those things, the wood is 7 years dry aged. Those things weigh a ton each. They're like small cars, and they have to bring them in with a crane. So a lot of wineries actually build their winery around those things because you don't take them apart. I've seen wineries take them apart and put them back together in the winery, but that's a lot of work, obviously. But some wineries are literally built around their foudre, and they create the slowest possible maturation because the wood staves are very thick, that oxygen penetration is very slow, and that there's just something magical about being able to elevate the wine nice and slowly. When you do it quickly, think of wines like Beaujolais Village and less expensive wines. You can keep the wines cheaper, which is good news, but they don't get more interesting. And this wine had slow élevage, and that's what makes it really, really great. It's also grown with that high ethos of organics and older vines and all the stuff that he's really crazy excited about from Itata. Now, he did show us vineyards in Maipo, which we're going to now move and talk about the wine in the second bottle, our Carmenere, and that is from that ranch there. We'll go back to the video now. I just want to check on everybody, ask if anybody has a question. Janice, you said, what are the benefits of that clay pot or amphore style? And really what they're, Sebastian's super excited about with those things. First of all, I can imagine that basically the people that knew how to make those clay pots died, and there's just nobody to make them anymore, and they don't know how they're made. So that having those old clay pots, and they're tough and they're durable, is certainly an asset. But what does it bring to the wine? It brings, they wanted to use the minerality of the place. So those clay pots are made in Itata from the soils of Itata. And they're really growing these grapes with really high intentions on the natural side. So natural winemaking, literally just putting the berries in there and letting it do the whole thing. And this is a bigger movement than we may realize right now. This is what, it's kind of like the oldest form of winemaking. If you go back to Georgian winemaking back in, 5,000 years ago, that's what they did. They made the wines in those big clay pots, but the clay pots weren't very strong. So they actually buried them in the ground to surround the pot with the earth to give it strength. And if you tried to move them, you'd break them. The terracotta pot. Those pots are strong, and they're heavy, and they're dense. And they're not quite as air permeable as some of those oxidative orange wine pots that you'll see in Europe, but they do have that use of the natural minerality, that constant contact, that sense of place kind of embodied into the wine because of the use of those urns. And it is certainly a high experiment. So their amount of the wine that they're making there is pretty limited, pretty experimental, but long term, this is a cutting edge, old school type of technique that they're bringing in. And those wines are going to be pretty expensive too, at least at this point in time. So that's a lot about the clay pot experience. So let's move into, just from a timing standpoint, I want you to be able to taste the Carmenere. He is going to talk about the Cinsault, and I'm going to get us there. So maybe keep the Cinsault for a second, but be ready with your Carmenere. Here it comes. Back to our video. And if anybody has a question, you just want to type it into the little box. We'll get to it, okay? And Josh, who's
really
such a
focused
great
on
listener,
terroir and style and history and all that stuff. And there isn't a better company to do what they need to have done than what you guys are doing. It's your only Chilean brand, right, Josh?
Correct. Yep.
And the Broadbent family, Michael Broadbent, and family have been dedicated to, kind of a historical, really famous wines of Mediterranean and
yeah, they've certainly helped put a few wines on the map. That's for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And it's a pretty diverse portfolio. So to be included in that portfolio is a great thing for Martino. And it's great to have so much talent like yourself out there to be the storytellers. What type of places are you having good success with these wines?
So in my world, it definitely some of the BTG type opportunities pre COVID shutdown, at least in Southern California, the purity of it and quality for value showed out. And so you'll see as you taste the Carmenere that we're gonna have today, and when you get exposed to some of the other wines, what Sebastian's talking about in terms of their restraint and elegance, I think shows through, and you see that there's not a ton of makeup there. You see the quality of fruit. It's kind of like when you let a lager beer warm up and you really see its quality at room temperature, whether you can drink it or not. And their wines, to me, once I heard the story, it made sense. I've at some point I got to find some of those bottles from the early 2000s to see what that other style was like that caused them to make that shift, just for comparison's sake. But I enjoy what they do because it's, take Carmenere, for example, and I'll let Sebastian tell the story because you'd hearken to the Merlot aspect of Chile's history, and Martino actually plays a big role in the story of Carmenere, but I'll let him tell that as we get into the wine. But Carmenere has such a huge spectrum, right? I mean, you've got on one end of things wines like Purple Angel, where it's this very extracted, very dark, very rich, decadent style. And then on the other end of things, you can have these examples that are $5 or $6 that are really very herbaceous and almost have a red fruit character. And depending on what you're looking for and what your expectations are, they can send you awry. But it's funny, when we have Martino, my counterpart, our other MS, Max Cast, we talk about a lot of times it's the Alto de Piedras, the high-end Carmenere from Martino, a lot of times can get taken to right bank Bordeaux because of the way the herbaceous character shows itself, the restraint, the color and freshness of the fruit, and then the texture in that kind of old world style. It's which I think is a compliment to them and what they're going for coming from Chile. And so I enjoy selling their wines. You do have to give a certain amount of perspective, because if somebody comes in with that Montes Purple Angel idea or the other end, they're gonna be like, what's going on? So I always try to tell the story, because I think that's important for Martino. And then once they have a couple of sips, they realize the drinkability of it, which I think is a hallmark of Martino wines.
And I think that's a smart move. When restaurants come back, I think it's going to be a much different scene. You know, the first thing that came to mind is like Napa Valley gets phylloxera, they replant, and they replant better, and they replant, you know, the right grape for the right place. And I think the restaurants are going to be that way too. We're going to see less chain oriented, or maybe we'll see more chains, but the chains themselves will be playing a better game with better produce and higher ethos. And
well, yeah, I think that's a good point, because I think with COVID and the effects of that of causing people to spend a lot more time online and doing retail and research, and then also unfortunately COVID has overshadowed a little bit of the issues with tariffs, and so which has caused some of those classic archetypal European wines to be a little less available or a little more expensive. And so my hope is that it gets people to branch out, because I love wine. And then if you take a look at what Brabant represents, that's certainly something we like. Wines from all over the world. De Martino is a perfect example. You want a Cabernet that just kills it in that low teen price point. The estate Cabernet from De Martino is beautiful. And so with that, welcome back, Sebastian.
Hey, Sebastian.
Hello, guys.
All right.
Sorry about the technical issue. I'm not a very techie.
Perfect. Perfect. It was a great segue.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll move into tasting now. Our two wines, we have a Carmenere and a Cinsault. Which would you like us to start with?
Let's start with the Cinsault. I will say let's start in the south.
Okay, Itata.
So Itata, we're going down south. That's perfect. I got the same bottle but different vintage with me now.
Okay.
So
you're probably in the 19?
19, yes.
Okay.
So very important. Remember Itata, in a nutshell, south of my country, lots of rainfall, picture like Oregon, something like that. Dry farming, all vines, goblet grown, viticulture, horseplow, low yields, mature vines. Coastal climate, a bit like your coast there in California. The closer you are, the fresher it is. So here we have about 12 miles from the sea, so you have the breezes, so it's never too warm, this place. You have lots of rainfall, especially during winter till the end of December. So allow us to dry farm. So this is a wine that it's all about charm. What I call that's a wine that makes me smile. Makes me have a bottle of wine. And the idea of it is to bring people to understand the red wines of Itata. So it's about lift, it's about purity, it's about like floral notes, spices, but with lots of charm and freshness. That is very, very, very important. And Gallardia, the name, basically it stands for a persona with gallardia is someone who believes on his own, a bit of a stubborn person who believes really much on what he thinks. And it's a tribute to the old vignerons that would withstand all of the different, hundreds of years in the area and kept farming their vines, because the area used to be the most prosperous vine growing region in Chile, and then when the Maipo came about, in the 19th century, and Colchagua and all those regions, the regions started going like this.
Right, because it become more, strategic from a farming standpoint, automation, flat land, things like that. Is that what
yeah, and when we have all the Cabernets and all those varieties coming from to Chile, all those cutting was just before phylloxera. So along with them come also some French winemakers, especially from Bordeaux, that were unemployed at the time because of phylloxera. So basically they say, look, whatever is in the south, let's forget about it. Let's the Cabernet, Merlot, Sauvignon, which is fine. They're great examples. But for us, even as vine growers, has been a very exciting this trip to Itata, because to be honest, this place has been hidden even to us. Where in the world you find all vines, dry farm that has never been sprayed or anything because there was never money to even spray them, horseplow, but still are reasonable, affordable, close to the sea. And you can produce wines that are more about charming and drinkability. Look, which are wines that we love. Itata is a very good place to go. And so I think we're very happy with this wine, which is like I always say, like the Gallardias are a good wine to enter the world of Itata to show this freshness and purity of fruit. And very important, you see also in the label, you see you see the vigneron with a horse. The horse, we have a horse that is very important. It's called China, our horse. Without her, we can't work the vineyard, because we have no tractors there. Everything is about horsepower there. So that's very important, and it's all of our Itata labels. Yeah.
Well, and I think for me, when we got to go, I had an understanding and an expectation for the Isla de Maipo area where you took us out and showed us the winery and the vineyards, but I didn't have any beyond just what I'd read and seen little bits of understanding or expectation for Itata. And so that to me was like a revelation and eye-opening, and I will never forget driving in there and the crazy roads in a bus. And it looks like Oregon with all the trees. And then all of a sudden we pop into this vineyard and meet Don Daniele, who is the owner of the vineyard, and then China, the horse, and get to see and experience that. I will never forget having Gallardia in the vineyard. That was for me, was one of those experiences of like, hey, when you think about some wine experiences you won't forget in 25 years, I will remember being on top of that hill in a little tent and being like, my God. And it was just, Gallardia is meant to be, as he said, a glue wine, a wine that's gone in 15 minutes with 3 gentlemen. But for me, it was a special experience, and it was a really cool opportunity. So if you were going for that, Sebastian, you achieved it. Whatever you were trying to do there.
No, this is not charming. I'm making things uncomplicated. Like I like to drink wine a lot. So sometimes you just want to open a bottle of wine and smile, like glug, 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 glug.
Well, Josh, I put the Cinsault in a Pinot glass. Do you think that's a better vessel, or do you like it in the more of a Bordeaux shape?
I like the Pinot, can work really well. I like this wine like a Pinot temperature, ideally, because it's the alcohol is on the lower side, and I think it works really, really, really well. I think it's a very nice summer red as well, and it's like a Vin de Brasserie. Like you put it in the table and you're gonna go with everything.
Yeah, this has got just a super sexy nose and just draws you right in. If you love wines of place, this is absolutely a must. And I can't think of besides the southern part of France, who else is playing a big game in Cinsault, Josh?
So that's one of the things that's been with my tenure with Broadbent has been I've developed a pretty strong love affair with Cinsault, and one of the kind of, I guess, linchpin experiences was the one in the vineyard with Sebastian, and that started it. And then certainly we have Musar from Lebanon, where Cinsault plays a big role in the blend. Yeah. And then South Africa, Cinsault is a big grape there. And so
that's true.
We're lucky enough to be able to understand a big spectrum of what Cinsault brings to the table. And actually, what's funny enough is probably the least place I'm least experienced with Cinsault is the south of France. Mm-hmm. And otherwise, it's everywhere else. And so I love what Cinsault brings to the table. And I think the Pinot comparison, I think you can often, sometimes depending on the style, like sometimes in South Africa, there's a little semi-carbonic aspect to it where you can play with the Beaujolais aspect. I love this Gallardia chilled, especially on today when it's going to hit 95 degrees here. Like that's my wine to throw on the table with anything and everything, salad, chicken, meat, and put a little chill on it. And it's just delicious. And so,
killer.
The comparison I draw most is it does have that Pinot-like character. And if people know Gamay and Beaujolais, I can draw comparisons to that. But I love that red fruited kind of floral, subtle hints, a little bit of spice, but it has a really great nose that just jumps out of the glass, and then it's really delicate and silky and dangerously drinkable.
Is it a clay that the vineyard's growing in? Because I keep smelling clay, but maybe I'm just thinking of those amphoras.
In this case, the one we do in amphora is the big brother of the Gallardia. So Gallardia, it's generally aged in either in neutral barrels or mainly in neutral barrels.
But the vineyard itself, is it got kind of a clay-like soil?
The soil has it's the type of soil is granite, but you are right. There's an important percentage of clay, which is very important. So
almost like a liquorata soil, kind of a layer cake of clay and granite.
Yeah, with a very old decomposed granite, because our coast. So Chile is a bit, again, like California, you have the sea here, a coastal range, a valley, and then the Andes. So it's like the coastal range, valley, and the Rockies. And so actually the oldest range in Chile is the coastal range. It's lower, but it's older than the Andes. So you see that the hills are more undulated. And generally, because there's always exceptions, most of the coastal range, it's granite. So very old decomposed granite. Very old decomposed granite. In some places you'll find more quartz. There's quartz. In our case, we have a lot of quartz, which I think always bring like a nice element in the tank that is very, I would say like very, it makes it very salivate. That wants you to make you salivate, so you want a bit more. And
it's almost like a wet, cold pre-rot down there.
Yeah.
Does that work for you, Josh?
As far as the soil goes, absolutely. Yeah, it doesn't get as hot as pre-rot down there. It's more in
wet,
that
cold,
kind of willamette. I'm trying to figure out a way to see if I can get a couple of pictures to you, but I'm struggling. So if I figure it out, I'll let you know. But I've got
we'll have another opportunity when we go to the live shot. We'll put them in our PowerPoint.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
But this is a beautiful wine. The folks, when we tasting this together, we'll break right about here and get some comments from the people that are tasting it, because everybody on the Zoom is going to have a taste of this wine with them. And I can't wait to see their expressions and to capture their comments. I'm just in complete love. So I'm really enjoying it. Thank you so much. And is there anything else we want to say about Cinsault before we move into Carmenere?
No, just I think, as Josh was saying, if you want something that it's from Chile, very drinkable, quaffable, I think a very good wine could be Cinsault from Itata. Not only ours, our growers as well in the area. The wines, if you find a bottle, try it, sample it. We are several growers now trying to bring back Itata into the map, because it's going to be a journey for us. So I think the more you support the Itata wines, great. And if you want something that is fresher, off the road from Chile, because a lot of people think about Chile more Cabernet or things like that. Try these wines, totally different style. It will make you smile.
Absolutely. That is just making me warm and happy all over the place. And
I was about to say, the dangerous part is it's so drinkable, but even as Sebastian talks about it as a glue wine, it is something that if you have a couple years of bottle age to it, it does start taking on some of that secondary and tertiary earthy characters to go with that fruit. That for being how inexpensive it is, it ages quite nicely. And so don't think you need to drink it all in a week or two, but I wouldn't blame you if you did.
Well, a beautiful, beautiful wine. Thank you so much. And I think our clients are going to love it, and it's going to be, it's still got that, sense of discovery, because I think a lot of people are going to be tasting it for the first time on our Zoom. And this is like one of the better references I can give for the grape variety and for sense of place, and that just is a wonderful representation. So thank you, and I'll look forward to tasting the version out of urn too. This was stainless steel. This particular one? Or
it's fermented in stainless steel, and then aged in a part in stainless and part in neutral barrel. So a combination of both.
Fantastic. Now we're going to move into our Carmenere, and I know you make several different versions, and we decided to go with the Legato as our representation today, and we're in the 16 vintage here.
So now we're here in my town. We're here in Isla de Maipo, right where I'm standing. something important about the Martino and Carmenere is that we are very proud to have labeled the first Carmenere in Chile. So the first bottle of Carmenere is actually the Martino Carmenere, vintage 1996, coming from our vineyard here in Isla de Maipo. So we, as a family, we have specialized a lot in the variety. So you touch a bit on the story of Carmenere. So originally it's from Bordeaux. You know, in the 19th century, with the French cuttings arrived to Chile, part of some cuttings of Carmenere arrived too. And when they replanted in Medoc and Bordeaux in general, they didn't plant Carmenere because it was more prone to mildew, and also it's a variety that has a very long cycle. So let's say we pick Cabernet, that variety we pick here is Carmenere. So Carmenere follows Cabernet. And generally you have a bit of more of a pyracinic note. So it's a bit more Cabernet Frankish as well, leafy element sometimes that we love as well. So it's trying to work in that nice balance of keeping that DNA of the variety and trying to make something that is very gentle and also more in a, like the way we like to drink wines here, more like a claret style. So the vines here are on average between 20 and 25 years old, coming from the vineyard that I show you the soil, so you can picture more or less that you have an idea. Wild yeast ferment and age in neutral barrels. So it's that's the idea on Legado. On Legado, it's, let's say, our flagship range in the Martino. It's like it's always in Legado you'll find a very good expression of a vineyard, wines that are nicely to drink now with food. You're trying the 2006, the current 2016. Sorry, the current vintage is 2018, and with some years those wines are lovely. We opened a Carmenere Legado with my brother last week. We do a vertical of the Legados. Like we went back to 1996, actually the first one, and you can see our house style as well changing in this journey that we did. But you can see that even the first bottles that were being made at the time, they were very charming. So we've learned with time. The vine is now older, so we have more understanding with more mature vines and more understanding of viticulture. So what I like about this wine is the texture. You always have a bit of the pyracinic element, but it doesn't go in the grain side because it's the DNA of the variety. Then in the structure is you have a richness, but with moderation. You have a tannin structure, but without being overwhelming. We're very careful about the alcohol content of these wines, and we're very careful of the extraction as well, the extraction of the tannin. So the wines that go more like this, and you have intensity than wines that go like this. We like wines that are more about intensity. And I think this is a very good example in the Martino, like the Martino style of, let's say, Maipo. And you'll find the same in the cab. When you go to the cab, you'll find more or less the same style.
And the hole that you showed us outside, was that a Carmenere vineyard, or is it similar, with the rock and the stone and the, no?
No, it's similar. It's actually it's a great terroir for Carmenere, for Cabernet. But it's actually the worst vineyard we have. It's Sangiovese.
Really?
Yeah, we've been, as Italians, we brought Sangiovese like 18 years ago. We planted that vineyard. We love Chianti, Ocase Chianti. We love it as well. You have acid, like we love that. But unfortunately, it's not working here. So very soon, that beautiful vineyard that you saw is gonna be replanted. So. We tried, we did the best we could with Sangiovese. It didn't work out. So we better purchase Chianti, or something.
Right. That's right. That's what happens.
Carmenere,
Josh, I'd love to get your feed on this too. Carmenere was a very important grape in Bordeaux back in the 1800s. They had the scourge era three successive scourge. Story I was told is that Carmenere was blamed as it might have been cursed and all these things, back in the 1800s. They basically pulled it out, ripped it out, but it was already established in Chile by the late 1800s and kind of the Chileans' house wine. Is that a correct depiction of the path of Carmenere?
Well, I think Sebastian definitely can comment on this, but it was something that was part of the mix of Bordeaux varieties, like the don't put all your eggs in one basket, right? It was one that depending on the year would show well, and other years it wouldn't. But in Bordeaux, it turned into more years than not. It wasn't showing well, and it fell out of favor. It did make its way to Chile via, I imagine, probably the French winemakers you were talking about. But and correct me if I'm wrong, Sebastian, the whole story is it came over as a Merlot, kind of as a stowaway, and essentially was thought as Chile had a unique clone of Merlot, and then eventually in the mid 90s, I think it was a French ampelographer was like, nope, you've got Carmenere. So I'll let you tell the story.
Yeah, well, look, you've been doing your studies, huh? I can tell the mess coming now out of you, huh? Because it was actually 1994, so very good. The ampelographer did a study in Chile in 1994, and he realized that much of what we thought was Merlot was actually Carmenere. So you can imagine the first thing was like, Carmen, what the that? And the problem was, that over time, as Josh was saying, Chilean Merlot was very popular commercially. So the ampelographer actually did a study, carried out a thorough study all over the country, and came to our vineyard and said, look, guys, your Merlot vineyard is Carmenere, guys. So, oh, bloody hell, what's that? Help me understand, because I've never heard about it. And we said, the thing we have, I remember a lunch conversation in the family. I was at the time I was 16 years old. I still remember. And it was the family conversation was okay, so we planted this thing that was supposed to be Merlot, and it's actually something that we can't pronounce. And what are we going to do? I said, okay, let's, the thing is Carmenere, let's bottle as Carmenere, and let's see, we can't lie. Why would we lie about something like that and say, look, we work with partners for many years, so they'll join us in this journey. So when we did that, we received calls from many wineries in Chile saying, don't do that, please, because it's going to be a problem for the commercial side of the industry. And we said, well, look, I have Carmenere, I label Carmenere, check. So since then, we tried to commit to the variety and try to make the best examples of the variety. But it was very challenging because firstly, we didn't know about the variety. Secondly, there were no benchmarks. So where is the benchmark of good Carmenere? Medoc? They weren't. Napa, no. Coonawarra, Margaret River, all the, let's say, Stellenbosch or whatever, all the Bordeaux areas, there were none. So it's been a journey of understanding the variety. We have understand few things. So firstly, a very long cycle, as I explained before, very long cycle. So the variety we pick. It joins the gravel soils with a bit of silt. It adapts very well there. So gravel with silt. Whereas, let's say Cabernet loves the grab. Carmenere likes a bit of topsoil of silt, and then you have a gravel. Then, so long cycle. Then the vines in general, like young Carmenere vines, can be quite nasty or very, it's hard to find charm in a let's put it that way, in a young Carmenere wine. So I think after 10 years, the vines get interesting and gets into a more balanced stage that produce nice wines. And it's also about, I think Carmenere, it's about the climate. Here it's not torrid warm. So being a long cycle varieties, we can harvest while preserving acid and at a moderate alcohol. So that's, I think, is very important, because some people think, in my view, that thinking that it's a very long cycle. If you plant it in a really warm area, it's going to be better to shorten the cycle. But it really doesn't work because you end up with something that it's a bit like vegetal, sweet, with tartaric acid in the middle, like it's a bit of a Frankenstein thing. So in our view, we're more prone into what we do here, everything with moderation. So mature vines, not extract too much. Yields are moderate because we have full materials anyway, and while you ferment, we make a good selection in the sorting table, and then we just age in neutral barrels in the case of the Legado. Then if we go up, the Alto de Piedras, which is actually our best Carmenere. The main difference is that it's a 5-hectare block in the middle of the vineyard, which happens to be the original vineyard from the first Carmenere that we bottled. And that's the aging. It's a bit of a longer aging reservation in the botti. So that's the main difference. But these are wines that right now, let's say if you age this 10 years, it's going to be perfect. 15 years, perfect when you open this wine. But right now, they're very charming as well with food. I see because the tannins are very gentle. They're very polished. They're not like tannins. They're very like that. So I think that's a summary. Yeah.
Genetically, the grape variety is related to Cabernet Franc, right, Josh?
Yeah.
Lineage to that?
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of Cabernet Franc-esque elements in the nose of this wine. To me, it's got kind of that graphite pencil lead type of a thing on the top, and but there's a little bit more of a leafy element in there too. And
agreed. The pyrazines in Carmenere are pretty unique in that they end up in that kind of, and this might be part of the ripening process. I'd be curious with Sebastian's comments on this, but they end up in more of that like red bell pepper, roasted pepper kind of camp, as opposed to just pure green bell pepper. And so, right. Yeah, exactly.
Very good point. Interesting.
Yeah. And I think that may be a part of what you're talking about with understanding Carmenere and understanding the length of the ripening process. If you were to harvest it with a lot of heat younger, you still might get some of that greener, more green bell pepper, herbal pyrazine component, as opposed to with the longer cycle. Maybe that's where it evolves into the red. I'm not sure. That's more on the winemaking side and on viticultural side than on my limited knowledge of Carmenere. So I'm curious.
Yeah.
No, I think you're right, Josh. But I think in Carmenere, it's viticulture. You can do cooking in a winery. That if you don't, that green element, if you go to the green pepper, it's because it's green. You need to ripen it slowly. And that's another key. Slowly, not like in spikes, and it gets a very nice and gentle maturity. And also you get some acid at the end, because remember, you pick it late, so the pH can be higher. So I think it's always working in a climate that is more mild Mediterranean. You can pick more ripe, but with a decent pH and mature as well. So it's very well understood that it's very climatic and soil specific Carmenere, as opposed to our varieties varieties that we produce here that seems to be more all around. Carmenere it will always show you if it's not the right place. It's a very place specific as a variety.
Yeah. It's fascinating. We have definitely gone a little longer than I intended, but I thank you for giving us this time. The wines are gorgeous, and I'm super excited that these are the two that we're representing on your winery's behalf. They're both gorgeous, and I have nothing like them, and that's really good. And I'm real excited to present these to people and to say proudly that they're selections that we have that not a lot of people have. So it's exciting to be able to have this type of an experience and to learn directly from you. And Josh, thank you for being here as well.
having me.
Super fantastic. Really appreciate it. All I can say is Martino's in good hands here in the U.S. And Sebastian, I want to thank you for giving us your time.
Ian, I wanted to real quick on the legato, just because it's hard for me to kick the sommelier habits and stick totally to an importer side. But with the Carmenere, it's a lot of fun to play with at the table because you do have that herbal aspect to go with a touch of acidity. And then the fruit is kind of in that mix of red and black, but it's never overwhelming. It's for me, certainly, and you're in the same boat because we're in Southern California, it's fun to play with not only Mexican cuisine, but some of the hybrid cuisines you're seeing where there's some Asian influences, where there's plays with peppers and herbal components. Not getting too high on the spice profile as far as its overall heat, but when you're getting into those spicy from like a different sets of spices as opposed to just pure heat, the Carmenere is really fun at the table. And so I would encourage you, and certainly when you're talking to your guests about this, it's a fun wine to pull out and say, let's see what this pairs with, whether it's like chimichurri steak or some sort of rice bowl. We had a lot of seafood when we were down there visiting with Sebastian, and I was just amazed at the versatility of it. That doesn't immediately, it's not something in my head that I would immediately think, oh, wow, this is going to pair with 15 different dishes. And so that's something that I thought was very exciting about it.
For sure. Sebastian, is there a favorite dish for Carmenere in Chile? Food?
It's I think anything I like generally, personally, in my house, I do a lot of, I will do lots of ragu, like Italian sauce, like ragu, things like that. Wonders. It's a very, like, if you have like chicken, any preparation in the oven or in the grill, wonders. So it's a spice food like Indian curry, things like that, works. I think anything that it's needs some richness, but not in the crazy side, works well. And then if, well, you want to go up, with perhaps with the Alto Tierra, an example that you can go for more meats and things like that. But I think anything in the oven that you put there, casseroles, you nail it as well.
Perfect.
I like the ragu, the red sauce comment, because that kind of tomato leaf, tomatoey character of a ragu pairs really well with the herbal. Yeah, that's a good
Definitely
call. Making me hungry.
Yeah, that tomato leaf note was right there. And I love that red pepper comment too, and plays well into the whole set of Italian herbs and spices for that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, guys, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for your time. I know you got big days today, and we'll represent you well when we go live with our Zoom group. And Josh, thank you again. And Sebastian, hope you have a great day.
Okay.
Likewise.
Well, thanks, Ian. Thank you.
We hope to see you in Philly someday. Let's get through the COVID era and into the next era where it's all about travel, because we'll be itching to go very, very soon.
Yep, absolutely. Well, thank you again, Ian. Really appreciate it. Sebastian, good to see you, my friend. Be well.
Thank you, guys.
See you.
Have a good day. Ciao.
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 All right, guys. So I hope you guys enjoyed those wines as much as I did. Sebastian's just a super likable guy. The wines are made with such a daft touch. Carmenere, quite honestly, when it's cheap and inexpensive, if you're in Chile, you don't mind it. You might even get used to it. It's pretty, got a lot of landmines, like big, awkward characteristics. But here, it just takes on so much beauty and really a wine that I enjoy quite a bit. But I'm a guy that likes to taste something different almost every day. And this really just kind of woke up my senses a little bit. I loved the idea of having it with the different types of foods and showing off something that you don't really get to taste very often. If I had it every day, maybe I wouldn't have been so wowed by it. But I definitely think this is one of the best versions of Carmenere and one of the best versions of Chile that I've had just between these two examples. I mean, I'm really looking for great wines from great places and great producers. And, this winery, when you look at the scores that they get and the placements that they're in, the top restaurants that these guys are in, the fact that Brabant's working hard on this brand and really not just trying to blow it up at retail stores for a cheap price, but really trying to position this and show people how good chili can be. That's really exciting to me. So I'd love to open up any comments that you guys have. David K, thank you. Yeah, I think that the references to Cab Franc on the Carmenere are so many. I thought it was interesting too that they thought that this was Merlot. I hope you got that note. You know, up
The
until
only note to Merlot I got was I went back in and there's a bit of chocolate, but I figured that might have been from the oak or something, a little light little bit of oak. But that's the only. I was like Cab Franc, like, oh, I got this. Reminds me, this is Cab Franc. It sounds to me, wow, this is, it was really amazing. But it is like a wine. Maria said that we never really would have known about Chilean wines. We haven't had a ton of them, and this changed my mind about, now I want to explore like his whole portfolio. We were able to get this estate. I imagine that's a blend of the vineyards from around that they put into this Carmenere that we were able to get. But it's even, this is one of the better Chilean wines I've ever had.
Cool. I'll find out how that sits in the hierarchy of things. It might actually even be higher end than the Reserva, if it's the estate wine. Chris, I'll ask if Chris is on there. Maybe he heard me and he'll chime in. But
what's that?
Hey, Chris.
Sorry about that. I was
No
making myself some. I had to have another drink. I was so thirsty.
David K is up in Canada, and so I couldn't get him the wines, but he wanted to know, because he was able to get Di Martino estate Carmenere instead of the Reserva that we're tasting. Maybe it's the same. Maybe it's
not. The estate tier is the tier below that. So you got the Legato. Legato is I would say the core of the portfolio would be the Legato range in terms of what's from the Maipo, whereas those from Itata are totally subset. So that'd be a totally different winery, so to speak. Even though it's the same winery, they're really 5 separate, considering the breadth of the
tiers.
Yeah, so there's the estate tier, and within that tier you also have the organic range. And then you have the Legato tier, so there's Carmenere, Cabernet, and Chardonnay, and then they've just added in some Pinot Noir, which is really, really exciting from the very far south, but that's for another time and another class, or another Zoom into wine session. And then you have the tier that moves into the single vineyard series, which I think you got a chance to taste through some of them, or at least you have them to taste. And then you have a tier above that, and that's the old vine series, and that's the wine called Vinho Carignan from La Aguala, and then of course the Itata wine. So the Gallardia that you've had tonight is one of 3 under the Gallardia label. You have the Sanso Rosé, and then a white that is really unusual, made from old vine muscat and 30% Corinto, which is Chasselas. Anyway, super geeky. And then you have the 2 Viejas Tinajas wines, which are done in amphora, which is what you guys were seeing from Sebastian. And those are really interesting. The Sanso is one of my favorite wines from Chile, but the muscat's really funky. So if you're into kind of that skin contact thing, I'm sure Ian can get you some. It ages amazingly well, yeah, to each their own, so to speak. Anyway, there you have it. That's all I have to say about that. You guys did an amazing job. You didn't need any of me to help.
Well, I'm very Chris runs the entire United States for Broadbent, and so he's a good friend, and he's here chaperoning my efforts.
A little, not even. I was just enjoying. I was cooking myself dinner, sweating my behind off because it's very, very hot. Yeah. I only have AC in my bedroom, so yeah, the rest of the house is pretty hot. So if I don't have a fan on me, I'm sweating. Otherwise, I'd put my video on. But I will leave you with a video in my background, and it's a label of the Viejas Tinajas. So enjoy. You guys killed it, and great to have everybody on board. And enjoy. Drink a lot of wine. Buy more wine from Ian. He deserves it. Look at his face. He deserves it. Anyway, all the best.
Thanks, brother. I appreciate it. And we love having the interaction with the winery, the winemaker, the owner. Being able to give us that time was amazing, and being able to bring him into our living rooms from Chile. You know, and we're gonna keep the action going as we look out into the future. And I just don't want to ignore any comments. So if you have any, you know, speak up or send a message into the chat box. But coming down the pipe really quick, and Alice, I'll get right back to you. We have this Saturday, we have Carlo Mondavi, grandson of Robert Mondavi, showing off Rain. Sunday is St. Innocents from Oregon. Two ridiculous wines to put back to back. They're just awesome. The people that are going to be on the Zooms are top at what they do, and really awesome, big personalities, rock stars, and super excited about that. That's Saturday and Sunday. Moving into next week, I've been having a lot of fun with these 4 amazing events that we're doing in a row. We've got up in Napa Valley, Barnett Vineyards. I'm going to be taping with her a little bit tomorrow because of what's happening in Napa Valley. So we're going to get some tape down just in case some bad things continue to escalate. Those of you that may or may not know, in the last day or so, there's been over 1,000 lightning strikes in California, lighting over 60 wildfires in the Napa and Sonoma County. My vineyard is in direct threat of the flames that are burning in Sonoma, and Clay Mortson and his family were evacuated today. So it's not going well in Sonoma County, and you know, keep a little thought in your mind, a little prayer for my friends up in Northern California. But we're going to lay down some video tomorrow with Fiona Barnett. She is awesome. We're going to be talking about her rattlesnake vineyard on the 26th and doing a side-by-side comparison. That's over $250 worth of Cabernet that we're going to be tasting on the 26th. And then on the 29th, really cool, we have Almaviva back from Chile. This is a 100-point Cabernet from Mouton Rothschild down in Chile, and James Suckling called it the wine of the decade. He gave it 100 points. And so with that and the allocation that I was able to talk the manager into giving me, I was able to buy enough wine. This wine's totally sold out everywhere. And I was able to get enough wine to do a nice big Zoom. We've got a big audience starting to swell. I got Josiah Citron to do a cooking demo for us, how to make a great steak at home. Now, I didn't want to just give you a video of how to make a great steak at home. I wanted to make sure you had a great steak. So we just got Creekstone, one of the greatest beef ranchers in America. Creekstone beef, prime New York steaks, 16 ounce. That's in a restaurant, that would be a $60 steak coming to your table. I'm going to send you a steak. It'll be frozen on the day we send it. The directions will be to put it into your refrigerator and let it thaw. And then you can use the video that we have already shot, and we're going to send it to you in advance so that you can make your steak anytime you want. But if you want to be on the video with us, having your steak and drinking your Almaviva, that'll be what I'm doing. And I'm hoping that you take me up on that. Now, if you're a vegetarian, maybe the steak part throws you off a little bit, and I appreciate that. I'm vegetarian part of the year, and it's about to happen. It's coming very quickly here. I should time it a little bit better with the best part of the year for vegetables right now. But I think I fattened myself up into this part of the year, and then I got to lean myself out now. So I'm going to go into the vegetarian state, and cauliflower steak is something I become very fond of. And I think that will be a good alternative for you. But that is Almaviva. Now, coming into September, and I'm talking to you and so showing you the website, because I don't have all these details up on the website yet, but we are working on it. We're going to start off on September 5th with a tasting of Brunello di Montalcino. And we're going to taste some 2004 Brunello di Montalcino from a top producer. And so that'll be coming to you. I've got an awesome experience in San Josef. Josh, who was on the video tonight, will help me with a kind of a master class on San Josef in the Northern Rhone. And we're excited about some of the wines we're going to be showing, talking about San Josef. That's Syrah-based wines from the Northern Rhone. Then we have Steve Beckman talking to us about Grenache and Santa Barbara on the 9th of September. On September 12th, we'll be doing Puigny Montrachet versus Merceau. Both the wines are Premier Cru. That'll be $250 worth of great Premier Cru Burgundy tasted side by side. You'll be able to do the $50 tasting portion, or you can buy the full bottles if you're feeling particularly your apple stock has continued to climb. Hopefully you guys have some. I don't. I'm super excited to be able to announce today, September 13th, a study of Madeira with our special guest, Bartholomew Broadbent. He is one of the great, he and his father are two of the great exporters and experts on Madeira. And we're going to taste 4 of them in that class. And that's going to be super, super awesome on the 13th of September. Chris, you got cleaned up in a hurry.
Well, I apologize. I'm not really cleaned up, but it is what it is. So I just, that's the Nuzar cellar, by the way, at Chateau Nuzar in the Bacop.
Perfect segue, buddy, because the next date is September 16th with Moussar from Lebanon, and we're going to taste 2013, which is their current vintage for their red, next to the 1997.
The 97 is spectacular, especially if you can find it in Magnum.
Cool.
That is a perfect wine in Magnum. I know.
We'll offer some Magnums, but I have half bottles and 750s, I think.
Well, I would say I just like Magnums because I can share it with more people. But yeah, half bottles are fun for lunch.
And half bottles Magnums are going to be great post-COVID.
Oh my God. Exactly.
Hey Chris.
Yes.
Chris, David, I got a 1972 Moussar that
white or red?
Is sitting. It's red.
Yeah, the white is arguably one of the great Moussar ever, in my opinion.
Really?
72 white. The 72 red is very, very famous because I believe, if I'm not mistaken,
Yeah, you drank that during the bombing or something.
that's exactly right.
Yeah. I want to say that. I want to say that.
You all are amazing. I'm sorry that I have to break off a little bit early. I know that it was a long presentation with you get Sebastian and Josh and Ian in the same room, and you know, hour and a half later they're still talking.
Yeah, it's crazy.
In a good way.
But thank you, buddy.
Yeah, you guys are awesome. I look forward to seeing you all in person as well soon.
Yeah, very soon. So yeah, I'll leave it at that. We're going to finish up with Moussar there in September, but there's more awesomeness coming, and we're going to have it up on the calendar in the next day or two, as my team is working as hard as they can. We've just really been very, very fortunate to touch a nerve with some winemakers. People are seeing who we're getting on the Zoom, so they're starting to call me and say, I want to get on the Zoom. And so yeah, please tell some friends, get some more people on here for us. As we get that much talent, we can't disappoint. We need to have a big audience for them to be rewarded. And but I want to thank you guys for making this happen. For me, my little career here. I couldn't do this without you. And wherever you may be, from Canada to San Diego to everywhere throughout LA and Orange County, I want to thank you for being on the Zoom tonight. I just really enjoy doing this. So thank you so much. Alice, you had a question earlier, and
not really a question.
Please.
I had a couple of things. First of all, this is my first virtual wine tasting, a concept which seemed kind of dubious to me when I first heard about it, but it was the Chilean aspect that drew me in, and I'm glad it did, because I've really enjoyed this, and you'll probably be sick of me after a while because I'll be back. But I had been in Chile about 1.5 years ago, and that was my first introduction to Carmenere, and I fell in love with it right away. And I was so pleased with this wine tonight. You know, it sort of struck me that the combination of the smoothness when you first had it in your mouth and the spiciness that followed, you kind of didn't want to swallow it. It just felt so good on your tongue. But of course, you do want to swallow it. But and the Sanso was a delightful surprise. I'm not sure I've ever had Sanso before this, and I will again. So I just wanted to say thank you very much, and I'll be back.
My pleasure. I will make a honest confession here too. I was looking during the video at our website, and I noticed that we had made a couple of mistakes on the description. Like, you know, we're moving fast, and I don't catch it all the time because we're copying and pasting. And so it looked like our designer pasted in the notes for the Carmenere on the Cinsault, and I looked at it closely, and not only did she paste in the notes for the Carmenere, but then she pasted in the price for the wrong wine. So I just took the price way down on the Cinsault. If you took a look at it earlier, it's a much different price point now. I was convinced that it was a $40 bottle of wine, and I was happy about it. So take a look now, because it's less than $20 for the Cinsault. And that is, that's why it's even a better deal. So if you like the Cinsault, it's available now for around 20 bucks. And the Carmenere, it's right there too, $18.95. So really, really good wines for the price. Really, really good versions of what they are. And I will dare say some of the best Chilean wines I've had. And I'm excited, like you are, David, to continue to explore and to see the upper end, because that's why I don't think most of us get a chance to taste the better wines of Chile. You know, when you're in California, when you're, you know, maybe in a lot of French or Italian restaurants, where do you get introduced to great wines of Chile? There aren't a lot of Chilean restaurants to show off their wines. So these wines have to be introduced kind of the hard way, and it's big work. It's a big work to sell a $30, $40, $50 bottle of Chilean wine, especially if it doesn't get 100 points. By the way, that Almaviva wine is almost a $200 bottle of wine. You're seeing some aggressive retails right now because people are out there trying to get the market share and fight for the lowest price point. Our bottle price is 150, and I keep seeing it moving all over the place a little bit, but that wine will be over $200 because it costs a lot of money to buy it now. The importer's taken the price up, the low prices are all gone. So that type of stuff happens too. Once a wine is built, they start making money off of it. The importers work pretty thin to get it started and get it rocking, but after a while they start taking margins, and so the prices start increasing. And then the retailers know that they're only going to get 2 or 3 cases. They're not motivated to sell at a real super low competitive price. So that's going to start happening too.